What are you trying to accomplish?
It started by accident. I'm a sound engineer, which means I'm a glorified DJ. I write all my programs at Steambox for 8 to 12 students. And what we find is that on any given day, and as you see the pictures scroll up, we'll probably have about 40 students showing up after school because they're super engaged in the programs, like Brenda Lee. So one of them was interested in DJing, one of them was interested in recording, and I wanted to show him how to do it. So we busted out the equipment, and I started showing this person, but what are we gonna do with 40 people there? Like have one person rap or have one person play an instrument? So we decided to have a roundtable discussion. We decided to just talk, and we started talking junk. That's what we do. We started talking, who's the best teacher in the school and why? Like, we didn't want to shame the bad teachers, but we wanted to show them the path to be like a good teacher. So yeah, it then became a celebration, and it then became a celebration about representation. So I feel like a lot of my students, we're about 60% girls, they're all students of color, and in sciences, they're severely underrepresented. So we started as an accidental DJ project, and it became a women in STEAM kind of thing once a month. So they talk junk, you know what I mean, for a lot of the month. But then we'll have somebody who looks like them come in and talk to them about their success, which is, I think, the podcast that was selected for this award.
Yeah.
Program to Steambox in Boston. She's an MIT grad, and she's amazing.
Yeah. So, Brenda Lee, how did you hear of Steambox, and what particular medium is your, what STEAM is your STEAM?
I can't really answer that because, like, to be honest, none of it was, like, anything that I was really interested in. Like, the only thing that really caught my attention was, like, the anime part, because I like anime and manga and stuff like that. But besides that, nothing interested in. But when I got into the program, it really opened my eyes to other things that I could do with my future. Like, right now I'm making a smart TV. It's like a touch screen. It's like a mirror.
Yeah.
And it's like, you program it into a way where it can, like, set you up as an alarm. Like, just be something that you see in the morning.
She's developing, right now with us, and we are this close to being finished, she's developing a mirror that works like your smartwatch. So when you go up to a mirror, you can say, Steambox, what's the weather gonna be today? And a digital interface will appear and show you the weather as you are getting ready for the day.
If you need anybody to try those out, I will take one. That is really awesome. So you come up with different creations like this pretty regularly.
Yes.
Has there ever been, because for me that sounds like, whoa, oh my God, that's too much. Has there ever been a project or a piece that a student or you all collaborated in idea thinking, and you kind of step back and think, oh no, this is too big, I can't do this. And what did you end up doing in that?
Every single project is like that. Every single project. Smart mirror. I'm a glorified DJ. How are we gonna, I don't know how we're gonna do this stuff. We figure it out together. And I love that she spoke on the piece about her being disengaged when it comes to the sciences. And a lot of my students feel the same way about schools, because those are the first students that I want to go and engage. But to come back to your question, the one that really struck me the most, see, all of these projects are student born. These are born around their passions, around their interests. What do they want to do? Not me, what do they want to do for a project? So I got students who love Star Wars. I got students who love Destiny, right? Like, this is like space operas, right? So one of my Star Wars students, what can we do? This guy's ready to drop out of school, he's super disengaged. What can we do? So we started a project. He's like, hey, you know what? Let's send this thing to space and let's take a picture of the Earth. And I'm like, yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I know how to do that. So here's where we get stuck, right? Because it's challenging. So first we have to figure out how to get this device to space. They started figuring that out. Okay, so here's the next step. The next step is we started following the pattern of, like, is this going to interfere with like a plane or something? We don't want to present any dangers. So we had to get clearance, and we found out that we had to get clearance from the General of the Air Force. Yeah, I guess no problem, right?
How must be done.
So then we're at NBC 10, and they're talking about weather patterns, because they're trying to figure out, once this thing reaches space and starts dropping back down to Earth, how are they going to figure out where it lands? So, okay, that's a lot of math. How's your grade in math? And they were like, well, D-, but I'm going to get it up, right? Like, so all of these challenges reached a big excuse the expression, a big hell no. Like, how are we gonna, but it's not my job to judge whether or not they can accomplish these things. It's my job to support them, encourage them, and give them the resources along the way. So, so they sent the device to space. They took a photo of the Earth. The GPS broke. But they used that math and science that we talked about, and they used their conversations with Kelly Bates from our local NBC 10, and they figured out, hey, no problem, this thing just floated 2 states away to Connecticut, because we launched in Springfield, Mass. So just drive us to Connecticut. Okay, so I'm gonna drive you to Connecticut, and then it's just gonna be sitting there? And they were like, yeah, right thereabouts. We found this thing. They were right. Like, I had no belief, but again, it's my job to just trust in them. Steambox there's a lot of ways, one of my challenges is not exploiting the students, and there's a number of things where, again, they're severely disengaged. They are severely impoverished, right? We've got almost 90% students who are free and reduced lunch. All of them are students of color in my high school level, in Providence anyway. And it's still, every single day, a celebration.
That's awesome. That's all I can say. So, Readily, where did you come up with this idea of a mirror? I'm thinking, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of all? Like,
Because I'm not the first one to have done it. I got the idea from somebody else. But then we thought of a way to change it, because the way that other people were doing it is that they were doing it in a way as if it was just like a tablet, like a big tablet. But we wanted to make it interactive in a way where I could wake up and speak to it and not have to like worry about it. Like I could do my own thing and then check my reminders, my schedule, what I have done for the day.
have you been testing out your product?
No.
Okay.
Yes, you
okay.
did.
But we went to Japan, so like we had to like put a break on it.
That's true.
So, mentioning
Poor
Japan.
Brenda Lee went to Japan.
I saw that was one of your most recent podcasts. So you do so much, and I feel like sometimes there can be a little bit of excitement, and with excitement can come chaos. How do you rein in your students through those podcasts and during the projects as well to get something thrown into space? Because I feel like you have to have some organization.
You don't organize, you just do it. You just go from the top of your head and what you believe and what you care about. It's not about so much about, oh, we have to plan this, we have to plan this. It's like, hey, get them in there, let's have a conversation, and let's see what storms from it.
I have a few secrets. Brenda Lee is my biggest rabble-rouser in the program. She's the first one. We will have a guest, right? Yesterday we had Seth Magaziner. We've had people from DC Comics. We have famous rappers. We will have a guest, and if a guest is saying something that is off color to Brenda Lee will be like, Brenda Lee will put them in their place. Like, Brenda Lee will check them. So in Japan, if we've got this long trip where we're on top of each other for 10 days straight, what was your role in Japan?
It was like,
do you remember I said, here's what I want you to do, like, here's your role?
the motivator.
Brenda Lee was the motive. So if she's the first one who's the rabble-rouser, she was in charge of being the motivator. So I have some little secrets that I apply, but usually it is a controlled chaos.
Awesome. I think that's the way that some of probably the most amazing ideas come from. So what was your favorite podcast? I know you're like really hyped up on Japan, so maybe if you want to talk a quick second about the Japan experience, because I don't think everybody knows about it.
You were asking me at the table about the A in STEAM. The A in STEAM is for arts, and as she mentioned earlier, and again, I wanted Steambox to be super inclusive, and I love talking about inclusion on the last panel, and we feel the same way, but we want Steambox to be for everybody, and what we try to do is, we want people to know that in STEM, there's already the A. It's like, why are we hiding it? Why are we muting it? And I want my art students, I want my art fans, I want my manga and Japanese anime fans to know that they have a place at Steambox. Not only at Steambox, but in engineering in general. Like, how do you do design work without general aesthetics, without applied art? So Japan came from their animation crew. They wanted to learn animation, so we started small, and we built up to learning from the best animation studio in the world, where, if anybody knows about anime, the best animation studio in the world is Studio Ghibli in Japan. They made movies like Spirited Away. They're basically the Disney of the world. I want to say of Japan, but really of the world. And they're amazing. So we did a podcast there. One of my favorite moments on that podcast, we took all the random Japanese flavored Kit Kats, And one was in there, one was a powder keg, because one was a wasabi Kit Kat. And
Oh, you meant they're really flavored Kit Kats.
yeah.
I thought you were using
Oh no,
some expression.
Japan's crazy with their Kit Kats. So
Wasabi.
one of the students in this audience, who's motioning no, don't tell this story.
That one right there.
The students are blindfolded on this podcast, and she unwraps the Kit Kat and she smells it and she goes, no, but it's wasabi. That was one of my favorite moments. But honestly, my all-time favorite moment on the podcast. Again, students of color, representation is so important. We had a non-binary Puerto Rican, half black, half Puerto Rican person from DC Comics. This person writes Wonder Woman. I'm sorry, they left DC Comics and right now they're writing Princess Shuri at Marvel Studios. If anybody saw the Black Panther movie, Princess Shuri is his sister. So this person is writing Black Panther. So the person who writes Princess Shuri, the person who writes Wonder Woman, was on our podcast and talking about one of the students at this table over here, saying their work is amazing. This person writes Wonder Woman, and you talk about my students? That blows my mind.
So what's it like being a proud parent? So you talk about being a very inclusive group. That can sometimes include people with very varying opinions. Have you ever used those varying opinions as a podcast to contribute to coming to a common agreement or being able to work through some of those differences?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Steambox is a celebration. I want that to be the mode and mood that you take home about Steambox. But Steambox can get pretty dark. If I seek the most disengaged students, some of those are the students who hurt themselves. Some of those are the students who don't see a light at the end of the tunnel and are struggling to survive. So I want to make sure there's an opportunity for them to speak. We hear them out. We don't have to agree with everybody's opinion. I had a student, I had a brilliant young black man on our podcast this year talking about how Dr. Ben Carson is one of his heroes. So I don't have to agree. I don't have to agree with everything that they say. I want it to be a safe space for them to say it. And I love the other students get an opportunity to be like, well, tell me more. Please tell me why, because I really disagree with that. I love all of those opportunities. We had another student who takes jokes way too far. This person's not with Steambox or the school anymore, but they take jokes way too far. And I feel like having that podcast is an opportunity for them to get some of these emotions and get some of these thoughts out and have their peers really work these things through with them.
Thank you so much. I think I could probably sit here and talk with you guys all day.
Can I drop
Absolutely.
2 more points? My homie Brenda Lee, we did a podcast at Boston Burger Company, and Brenda Lee, we were pitching milkshakes to, they have an engineer in their kitchen. If you've ever seen, they have these freak burgers and milkshakes. Brenda Lee pitched, tell me more.
So we was just like talking crap, like always. We're always talking crap. So we're over here like shooting this dude, and this dude is sick of hearing our requests. He's like sick of hearing us talk. He's like, you guys need to get out of here, like with these crazy ass milkshakes.
I don't believe that. I don't believe it. Go ahead.
Yes, he was looking at us crazy.
The podcast
we were
could go
playing.
on.
So I'm like, yo, they don't have anything based on like Latino and Latina flavors, like, you know, stuff that like comes from your roots and like where you're from. And so I'm like, what about if we put some tres leche up in there, yo? Like, you know what I mean?
This
Dulce
dude
de
lit up.
leche.
This dude was like, go on.
And so he made it like one of his special like milkshakes for like Cinco de Mayo. And then it ended up becoming a permanent milkshake.
They have a permanent, like a Brenda Lee, we're not monetizing it, I've got to do better, but they have a permanent milkshake.
I need my check.
At Boston Burger Company based on Brenda Lee's invention, which is amazing. And I also want to say, I love Brenda Lee, I love the students that we're working with, and we try to make it inclusive so adults can come in and volunteer and have opportunities. If you want to follow our adventures, Steambox RI on any platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much.